Hello and welcome to, what am I doing here? My Woolly PhD. I'm Liz Scarf and this is a weekly vlog about what I'm learning and making each week in my anthropology PhD, all about wool, which is super exciting. If you haven't seen, I described like the full sort of outline of the project in the introductory video, so if you want to have more of a sense of the big picture, you can check that out. Otherwise, we'll get into this week. So what's on this week? Joanne Turney is what's happening this week. So Turney is a professor of fashion and textiles and textile history, and she's one of the few academics that's really kind of thinking and researching and writing about knitting. She writes about other things too as well that are really interesting, particularly subversive fashion. So check her out. I'll put everything in the show notes too, of course. And she has this very interesting book called The Culture of Knitting, which I think I started reading last year, and I need to kind of get back to it more. I haven't been reading it this week, but I did want to share that. And it's really, she has a focus from about the 1970s on, so it's not like a history, but really she treats it as a cultural device, and it's really quite interesting. But anyway, what I have been reading this week from her, it's an article that's called Making Love with Needles, Knitted Objects as Signs of Love, with a question mark. And this was really entertaining, actually. And so she kind of addresses one of the things that many knitters are familiar with, right, which is the way that knitting is stereotyped and associated with very feminized ideals of love and nurturing, etc. But she asks, and I'm just going to read a couple of things from her, straight from her thing, which I'll need glasses for. She says, are these acts of love completely selfless and altruistic? Or is there something more sinister lurking beneath such acts of love? Like, I just love this sinister. It's so dramatic, right? Anyway, she gives a couple of examples and to kind of really try to inquire into this point. And one of them is about Christmas sweaters, right? So this whole tradition of kind of making sweaters for family members at Christmas time, and sometimes if they're Christmas themed, like they're a bit dorky or something. Anyway, so she says, the handmade sweater as a joke exists as a sign of intergenerational misunderstanding and the sacrifices one makes in order to maintain difficult and disparate familial bonds. Yet who here is the fall guy, the comedy stooge, the maker or the wearer? As sweaters are frequently made by older female relatives for younger male ones, are we really laughing at the old woman's lack of fashion sense or her inability to understand the young? Perhaps the knitter knows only too well what her son or son-in-law, grandchildren and so on would like, but here she is playing dumb. She knows that even if only for a few minutes, the recipient will be forced to wear it, express gratitude and thanks, and ultimately look foolish, uncomfortable and emasculated. The knitter here is not daft, but conniving, subverting from within by playing on sociocultural norms of familial hierarchy and respect, as well as using the seemingly passive and inoffensive act of knitting to cause humiliation. Here, the knitter is dominant and demanding of respect and recognition. Okay. Why am I laughing about this so much? I mean, it's pretty dark, right, in some ways. And I'm not entirely sure what I think about it, but it's certainly interesting. And she is very strongly challenging what is, I think, a very claustrophobic stereotype. I mean, most stereotypes are very claustrophobic, right? Very limiting. This stereotype around women who knit. I tend to think it's, when she says conniving, it makes it sound really conscious. For me, I just don't think that's the case. And I certainly think these knitters probably aren't aware of the domination aspect of what they're doing. But that's actually really normal for domination and control behaviours, right? They're often subtle, they're everyday, they're unconscious. So I think it's really cool in that it says women, knitters, are sophisticated and complex psychologically. But so is everybody. And what we do on the surface doesn't explain the full depth of everything that we do in our behaviours. So I think it's just, I like it for the very least of saying knitters are complex, just like everybody else, and hey, there might be more going on unconsciously than we think. Are some people making garments to humiliate others? Deliberately? Maybe. Let me know in the comments if you are. I'm not sure who's going to out themselves. I don't think I'd out myself. Anyway, but the other thing that I took from there is even if we're not knitting to humiliate people, which is great because I don't think deliberately humiliating is, well, without consent, is really okay. But something else I took from Turney is the way that when we gift something handmade, we put people into a very specific kind of relational debt, quite different as if it was something we just bought for them that was kind of ready-made. And I started making links to this concept that some knitters, maybe not all, have, I certainly do, about who is knit-worthy and who isn't, like who I'm going to make things for and who I won't. So who can receive the gift of my knitting kind of thing. And I don't think it's that uncommon, but that we have some kind of expectation about how the garment will be used or cared for or appreciated, and the meaning that the person will make from it. Will they understand the amount of love and care and nurture that this item is supposed to convey, and then also supposed to engender in response? So if we didn't have some kinds of expectations, we wouldn't have this idea of knitworthiness, and we'd just make stuff only because we loved it. So I think her thing is it all altruistic? Of course not. But I don't even really believe in altruism anyway. I think there's always something in it. There's always an exchange, right? And anyway, I just thought that was really interesting how she's talking about how gifted handmade garments as a really complex mediator and communication device in relationships. That's been really fascinating me this week and getting me to really think about, like I knit a sweater for my partner for their 50th birthday. And what did I expect back from them in terms of how often they would wear it, how often they would praise it. So, and there were totally expectations in that. And then, when I make or knit things for my daughter or for others, I've definitely got expectations about how it will be received. So I don't know. Let me know if you do as well. Put them in the comments. My number one is actually about how things will be cared for. Like, I'm not going to knit something for someone very often if I think they're just going to throw it in the washing machine. Even if it's super wash. I know, I just can't do it. Anyway, let me know in the comments what yours are. I'm really curious as to what criteria for knitworthiness, what criteria will be like most common, and what are the quirky ones? Oh, that's really interesting. I'm trying to think about ideas that I haven't had before about what could people possibly classify as have on their criteria for knitworthy enough. Like, you'll have to wear it X number of times, or wear it whenever I see you, or anyway, let me know. I have come across a few other articles talking about what it means to be knitworthy, and particularly one, and I haven't read these yet, but they look really interesting and I will get to them, but with regard to race and gender as well, around inclusion and exclusion relative to this concept of knitworthy bodies and knitworthiness. So knitworthy bodies are kind of a different idea to knitworthiness in terms of relationships. But anyway, I will have to save them for another video once I've read them. Okay, so that's what I've been reading and thinking about, is the gifting of, knitted garments particularly. I don't do a lot of non-garment knitting. Not really that interesting to me. And just kind of, it's just helped me sort of think more about the expectations or the desires I have for how that gift will impact the relationship and how the other person will behave, respond, take care of it, how they will appreciate me or feel loved by me, particularly. So that's really interesting. I'd love to hear your reflections too. On to what I've been making. I actually feel like I've made some stuff. I didn't feel like I did until I had to get them together for the video, and I was like, I've done some things. A couple of them are not knitting, they're sewing. And it's because it's summer in Australia. I actually find it quite hard to knit because we don't have air conditioning. So I made this hair towel for my daughter. So it's like this kind of thing. and you pop the button at the back of your head. No, I always put it at the front. Pop the button at the back of your head. I'll show you. And you twist it up here, and then there's a little button and your little hook, and you pop it on like that. And then you can put that on when you get out of the shower and just, wander about, your hair getting dry and out of the way. Anyway, so I recently had reason to believe that she was in dire need of one of these. So I headed off to the op shop and I picked up this lovely coral coloured towel. It's really nice. And a little button that goes with it. And I made this based on one that I have had for years. And it's sweet, really sweet. Oh, there we go. Good camera. Edging that actually was fabric that my daughter was getting rid of from her stash, and I grabbed it. So it's very cute, full of the values of sentimentality, sustainability, whatever that is, thriftiness. I love all these values, right? And I think this for me has been a great thing to reflect on about with Turney's points around what's going on in the gifting of handmade things, because I don't know if my daughter wants one of these, right? I just went to pick her up one day. She lives out of home, right? She's like 25. And she had wet hair hanging down her back. And I had this involuntary kind of like impending pneumonia reaction, right? And I decided that a hair towel was in order and I would make her one for her birthday. So it was like this nurturing, protective impulse, right? But I also fantasize about it, right? Where I just think, oh, she'll think of me every time she uses it, when she sees herself in the bathroom mirror or wearing it, and she'll feel how much I love her in those moments. And it might not be what happens, right? And she might not want that to happen. She might not want to constantly be thinking about me. So how free can I be to let her accept or reject the gift? And the fantasy, right, around what this is going to mean relationally and the impact it will have for her, and will it be this object which continues to convey my love and care for her, like on a daily basis for her. Like, that's a lot of pressure to put on someone, right? Anyway, so that's just going to be fun. I will be giving it to her tomorrow, but I have told her she can't watch the video until after. So there we go, that's that one. And next one, I think I've mentioned it in another video. I've showed you the linen I was using, but I have made some great progress on my So Liberated studio tunic. Now, So Liberated is an independent pattern maker. Meg, I think, is her name. She's got a little team there. Really awesome patterns, really great instructions, just totally love it. And yeah, a little independent business. So that's really, yeah, I love it. I'm really pleased with myself with this. So right, I have been sewing since I was a kid, and I thought I was a reasonably good sewer, but I've really just been making self-drafted things where I just kind of design the pattern or just kind of make it up as I go along. So I haven't had to follow a pattern or really kind of stretch myself or assess my skill level against any measure before, and so I've just kind of gone, oh, actually got a lot to learn, which is very exciting. So I've been following a tutorial for this, and I'll put it, I can't remember her name in the moment, but it's just, she's an amazing sewer, and she has a really high standard of like getting things right. And I think that for me has always been the learning with sewing, is like really insisting with myself that I get it right, like undo it if I get it wrong and redo it. That's the thing that's always made my sewing get a lot better. So I love that about her approach as well. But I'm not going to be able to show it very well, but this is the tunic. So it needs to be hemmed. Show you this, got this little loop thing on the back. How cool is that? Anyway, so the whole body is together, and I've done the interfacing for the collar, which I am quite chuffed with. It's very neat. Did take a little bit to get it right. And so I've just got the arm interfacing to do. I've got pockets to put on. I've got the hem to do, and then I'm done with that. So I might finish that this weekend. I'm really excited about that one. Yeah, and I've just kind of feel like I've upped my sewing game and got some new skills there already. So that's really lovely. And it's still a relatively simple pattern. Well, it is quite simple. It's all French seams though, and if you don't know what French seams are, it basically just means it's really neat on the inside, but it takes a lot more time. And so that's been really nice. sort of learning how to do those really well. So that's been cool. I'm still working, we're all going to be so relieved when this is done. I'm still working on the Pyramid Cardi test. It's looking like this now, big long bit of fabric, and I am about 1 hour away from separating off for the sleeves. I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes I get in this like, oh my God, this thing is taking so long. And so I'll often like actually time how long whatever that task is, right? And I had been getting in this like, oh, each row takes so long. I think it's about half an hour a row. Oh my. So I timed it. It's about 17 minutes a row. So it's going to take me an hour to get to the sleeves. And that's great because that's really what the designer would like, is feedback up to that point at least. So I will feel like I've met my end of the deal. That's going well. I still like the fabric. It's good. Yeah, when it does come out, I do recommend it. It's a really clearly written pattern. There's a few things in patterns that are commonly confusing, and I think this designer, Minimi Designs, has really nailed it on being really clear. Actually, it's great. It's a simple pattern too, so it's not too bad. Anyway, I have also been dyeing. So last year I did a test knit for Relily. It's a French designer, and it's called the Intasha Reset Cardigan, and I cannot recommend this enough, especially if you want to skill up a little bit. So you learn Intasha in it, which is really not that hard. She's got some videos about how to do it. It's great. But the design element's amazing. It's got saddle shoulders. It's got pockets at the front. There are no seams in this thing. It's amazing. Anyway, so you knit it in, well, you can knit it in whatever many colours you want, but generally you knit it in 3 colours, and I knit it with these. So they go together fine, contrast is fine, whatever else, they're fine. I like them when I look at them in a ball like this. In a garment, I didn't like them at all, so I wasn't really wearing it. And there's photos of it on Instagram and on my Ravelry page, but I wasn't really wearing it, so I thought, why don't I dye it and see what happens? So I knit those up into a little test swatch and dyed that. Looked great. I thought, sure, I can do that. That's nice and brown. And then I did the whole cardigan, but it came out a bit blotchy, and I suspect I didn't take the very clear instructions seriously to make sure all the dye was dissolved. So if anyone needs to hear that lesson, make sure the dye's really dissolved well. And I didn't stir it enough at the start, I think. That's why I got blotchy, because I was a bit nervous about, am I going to make it felt? Honestly, so I've just put it through the absolute ringer trying to get the blotches out. So I dried it and then realised, oh, it's a bit too blotchy. So then I gave it a couple of really hot soapy washes. Lots of dye came out, but it didn't really solve the blotchiness. So then I re-dyed it. And again, it didn't solve it. I think it made it a bit better though. But this is kind of what I ended up with, is this kind of brown. So this front was the orange, and it's a little bit different to the others, which I didn't mind. But there's just a little bit of blotchiness kind of around here and on the back. You can't see it on the video, so I think it's okay. I think I'll probably wear it, and you know, maybe it's just something I'll wear at home more, but I definitely will wear it more than I was going to wear it before. So I'm pretty happy with that, and I learnt a few things about dyeing. That was good. Oh yeah, and I think I showed you this a few weeks back. But I got this cone of mohair silk. It's from Ito at an op shop for like $5 or $7. It's massive. There must be hundreds of kilometres. I feel like there's hundreds of kilometres of yarn in this. Anyway, I thought, oh, there's a bit of dye left in the dye bath. I will wind some of this off onto my Swift, make a skein, and throw it in the leftover dye and see what I get. And hopefully not felt at all. And I got this. And just seeing if there's light. Oh yeah. So it's a lovely, soft kind of brown fawny colour. It's quite nice. That's definitely something I would knit with. And so I think I did about 500 metres of this. So, you know, it's equivalent to a regular ball of mohair. So that's going to be good. If I can get it into a knittable ball, I'm still kind of like going, oh. I've never done that before. So I've only ever bought mohair already in knittable balls. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's it for this week. That's what I've been thinking about. That's what I've been making. And yeah, Thanks for watching. I hope you've also been getting to make some fun things and think about stuff that is also tickling your noodle. And yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you next week.